Hello, good evening, friends, students. I looked at it. I can look at it again. I need to finish looking at my other class, but obviously not during lecture. Oh, yay, of course. I actually really like the new build. So getting right into announcements. So as of this morning, I believe, Cengage updated their system. And so they have a totally new homepage, dashboard, or at least for the instructors they do. I don't know if it is completely different for you or not, but for me, it's a very different experience. So welcome to the Cengage student dashboard, right? So this thing's popping up because it's new and improved. So no, I don't mind you calling me Cook. That's my name after all. Most have agreed that it's not a very interesting nickname. You're not hurting my feelings, though. Chapter 8 was the question? Yeah. I looked at it, but I might be crazy. It's been known to happen. What's cooking? You know what? Oh, crap. Hold on. Okay. Kind of glad you asked. So actually, I got a new toy tool thing in the mail yesterday. It was supposed to come in today. Got it early. Pretty pumped. I'm waiting on this to load. So far, nothing's happening. So I'm stalling. I bought something that I've always wanted to own, although it's more complicated than I initially realized. And so I had to divide my choice into one of two categories, big or small. And I went small. Small and detailed, or big bulk. I went small and detailed. And that is to say, I bought a 3D printer. And so I tested it out last night, and there's apparently a fairly finicky setup process. And I happen to have right here, since you asked, the first thing that I've printed. Now, this is a failed print, technically, but it did better. This is, I was supposed to have printed two of them, and I only got one. The other one failed very early on, and then this one failed. The other one failed pretty quickly. This one failed after about 3 hours. It's pretty close to being done, but it's incredible. I don't know if you'll be able to really see. Here, I'll do this actually. I'm gonna. Why can't I center this? There we go. Okay, so that'll make it a little easier to see. This Elegoo is the brand of the printer. This is supposed to be a rook, as in a castle from chess. And then if you can see inside it is a spiral staircase. The autofocus is having trouble. There it goes. See that spiral staircase in the middle? It's pretty incredible. Unfortunately, it failed. Tried again. Those failed much worse. So I've made some other adjustments, adjusted it again. Yep, this is the test model. So this literally, I put the thing in there, which is like literally slide it in, pour in the resin, hit go. This came out. So I adjusted some of the parameters. Tried it again. It failed much more dramatically in a bad way. This is just not working. Let me try refreshing the page. It failed much more dramatically, made more changes, and it did a little better this time, so it failed equally on both halfway through. So after class, I'll clean the resin tank, refilter the resin, tweak some more parameters. I think I know what to do. I've got another idea anyway. We'll see what happens. So Daisy asked, what was this? Mo asked, how much was it? So the amazing thing is that these printers are on sale on Amazon for about $260, which is an absolute steal. Incredible. $260. And it comes with a big kit of like accessories and tools. You do have to buy the resin separately. A big bottle is like $20. I have one. No, it's over there. This bottle of resin is about $20. It's half a liter, which is quite a lot. So the software tells me that my pair of rooks costs me about 84 cents in material, assuming it actually prints, which it didn't, so it doesn't actually use all the material. Yeah, the printer's a little about, I think, so I bought 2 different kinds of resin to try. I bought another accessory thing. Like there's a disposable piece that goes bad from time to time, like over time, I mean, and then the machine itself. And from Amazon, now I didn't have to pay sales tax because I shipped it to Tennessee. That was pretty nice. But I got it for like $320 with everything, all the accessories, got the resin, got the printer, got everything. I apparently am just gonna have to look later on the Mind Tap. I refreshed the page and it's still not working, so I don't know what to tell you. So remind me later. We'll look again. It's not working. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. I wanted to make sure that I got these options set up correctly this time because I messed it up last time and probably the time before that. Okay, all that looks good. Oh, that reminded me of something else. Hold on. Okay. All good. So, this is what's cooking. I wish it were actually cooking because it takes 4.5 hours to make a pair of these. Or just one. They're printing side by side, so there's 2. 2 at a time. So 4.5 hours to print. So, it's 7:15. Class ends in an hour, a little over an hour. So I won't get to clean it and start the next print. And I may be up late trying to watch it and catch it before it fails again. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, syllabus and announcements time. I get this question all the time, which kind of often, honestly, it baffles me. But I'm pretty sure I checked the due date. We'll get there. We'll get there in a second. Hold on. So I get this question all the time, which is baffling to me. The announcements are posted on D2L under syllabus and announcements in the content area. So if that's news to you, you're welcome. I don't know how it's a question all the time. Genuinely, like it is a question all the time. So somehow people don't know that, which doesn't make any sense to me. But that's what happens. All right, I'll just close some of these extra tabs. It irritates me. No, too many tabs. I don't like having tabs open. It bothers me. Okay. Is it not due? Well, let's see. Where's my slider? There it is. Okay. Right here. Chapter 8, due Sunday, 4/26. Yeah. So the L is telling you that if you submit it late, there's a penalty. That's all it's saying. So don't panic. Reminders. Climate Studies survey available through Monday. Let's all get this done. Mind Tap access instructions are on D2L. If you haven't gotten this taken care of, like I said, everything's gotten refreshed today. If you've emailed me about it, we've had a dialogue. The short version is I don't have a magical answer for you. And I've had some students have reached out to Mind Tap to Cengage directly, and several of them have they've had it go through back from the back end, meaning like Cengage themselves just refresh the trial. The other thing that I've heard, most of the people who've had problems have been on Mac computers. So if you're on a Mac and it's not working, try a PC. That you can take that advice in the micro sense for this occasion, or like a PC as an like all the time. I recommend it. Macs are just not worth it because it's things like this. There's just headache after headache after headache after headache, which is too bad because they're great machines until they interact with something outside of their network and then it explodes, and that's so disappointing. There are days I miss my Mac. And then I deal with your guys' Mac problems, and I'm like, oh yeah, never mind. This is why I left. Because it's a pain in the butt. Okay. So if you cannot get access to D2L, remember, you got to log in directly, not through D2L. Look for that button on the homepage, meaning the dashboard. There's the name, the dashboard. If that's not working, try it from a PC. Borrow a friend's computer and try it there. If that still doesn't work, then put in a ticket for MindTap, the MindTap folks. I've been told they responded within 12 hours, so that we should be pretty quick. Of course, you had a homework due today, or have a homework due today. It's due at midnight, so 12 hours will not be fast enough. So if you still have problems registering, get it fixed and let me know, and we'll figure the dates out. Okay, so this is a summary of upcoming assignments. Some stuff is new, but some of it I'm brief on because we talked about it on Monday in detail. So feel free to scroll down. Remember that all the previous announcements are on this big slide deck. So come on down to slide 3 or 4, whatever this is, for the breakdown we went over last time. What you need to know is that we have homework due tonight, Chapter 8 due Sunday, and as we were discussing a moment ago, if it looks like you submitted it late, if you're doing it before Sunday, what that means is just it's warning you that if you submit it late, there's a penalty. So you have 24 hours past the posted date, Sunday at midnight, today at midnight, whatever. All of them are midnight. It's like it says here. You can submit it for another 24 hours, but you'll get half credit. So it's just a warning. It's not telling you you've been punished yet. Chapter 9, interpreting the results portion, was exclusively about population proportions. So I took it out entirely. There is no second piece. You should be familiar with, at this point, of having, the assignment and then the interpreting the results. There's just one. There's only Chapter 9 assignment, like assignment dash Chapter 9, I think, or Chapter 9 dash assignment, one of the two. Just that one. That's the only thing, and it's due on Tuesday night. Technically, finals week starts on Tuesday, but I'm having it due on Tuesday. Feel free to do it sooner. Remember, Chapter 9 Vocab Quiz today. I'm not sure why I said quizzes. That was probably a typo it made sense before, and I edited it to, anyway. I think it said Chapter 8 and 9 quizzes this week, and I took it out 8 and said today. Anyway, I'll fix it on my other monitor while I keep talking. But it won't refresh on here until you download a new one. Oh, well. Okay, it's uploading to the server. Okay, so here's what's going to be coming up. So in-class assignment 2, which remember is covering Chapter 7 and 8. Talked about that last time. It's going to be available on D2L under the Quizzes tab. Actually, I can make that more clear. Let me make that say D2L quizzes. And in fact, okay. I made a note on ICA 3 as well. So if you download this yourself in the next 10 seconds or something, it'll update. Okay, so in-class assignment 2, Chapter 7 and 8, available Friday through Sunday. Now it's under a quiz, so it'll be kind of a similar format in terms of how you answer the questions as to what this second exam was. Although you'll basically have as much time as you want to work on it. Also, you can complete this in groups. Obviously, that is a metaphorical statement. You can complete in groups remotely. You're not allowed to break social distancing for my class. Don't be fooled. Okay, quiz 2. I promised you that would be open book and open notes in class on Monday, covering 7 and 8 only. That's actually not new. Just a reminder that that's going to follow in-class assignment 2. It'll have a question or two that are basically identical from the in-class assignment, and you'll have a short amount of time to answer it. So feel free to work on chapter 7 and 8 in-class assignment in groups, but know that you're expected to know it yourself. And if you've just copied from somebody else, haven't learned it yourself, you're going to have trouble on the quiz. So that's my warning. Okay, in-class assignment 3, if you remember, is that exit survey regarding Twitch and Discord. I talked about this at length last time, so you want to go back on Wednesday, watch that video, and hear me talk about it again, feel free to do so. But again, the point is, I'm going to give you an exit survey. That's also going to be under quizzes, just like everything else pretty much. Pretty much everything's under quizzes. In fact, I think literally everything's under quizzes, except for the MindTap homeworks, which, as you hopefully guess, are in MindTap. Try to make that name obvious. I think I succeeded. Okay, so the exit survey, I decided not to make it available this weekend because I figured you had enough to worry about this weekend. You already have 2 homeworks, you have an in-class assignment, and a quiz to study for. I figured that was enough. And the end-of-semester surveys, which we haven't gotten to yet, and the climate study. That's enough to think about, I think. So we'll do the in-class assignment exit survey, exit survey on finals week. So that'll be available. Monday isn't technically finals, so finals week is officially Tuesday through Friday. So those are going to be your opportunities to fill that out. And that's not group work because I want your thoughts. I want your individual thoughts. I've got a big list of questions. Not big list. I have like a dozen questions or something that I'm going to ask you. Do you have a laptop or a phone? Like these kinds of questions. How are you watching the lectures or whatever? Very, very simple questions, so this won't take you long. And you fill it out and you get a completion grade, so smiles. As I alluded, end of semester evals are due on Monday. I looked earlier this afternoon about 3 o'clock, and you guys were leading the pack for my 3 sections, sitting about, I think, either 30 or 40%, something like that. So we're halfway to our goal. Remember, at the 80% mark, I'll drop your lowest quiz. So I can mention this in class on Monday, but I'll try to email you on Sunday if I remember. I've got it on my to-do list. We'll see if I forget, but try to email the class and remind everybody to fill it out. So again, if we get to 80%, I'll drop your lowest quiz, and that will make quiz 3 optional. Quiz 3 is going to be over just chapter 9. Okay, so schedule for finals week. So in addition to the in-class assignment, which I talked about, you'll have 3 assignments. You have quiz 3, which will hopefully be optional once we get our 80% put in. That will run through Tuesday the 28th through Wednesday the 29th. So those 2 days. Chapter 7 and 8. So glad you asked. Details are on the slides on Monday. So go back and look at those. That's exactly the kind of thing you can find on previous things. Okay. Quiz 3, Tuesday and Wednesday. Exam 3, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And final exam, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So you can check those dates on the calendar. Can I pull this up over the top of that? Let's find out. Not in full screen, no. Okay. So there are, those are the calendar dates. Feel free to, if having those days of the week is easier for you, you can write it down on a calendar or something, but that's the idea. So those dates. So the way this is going to work, because evidently it's too much responsibility. Yep, on the announcement slides. Go back to slide 4. It's apparently too much responsibility to fill out a survey and tell me what you want. And also, it was a huge pain in the butt for me trying to enter everyone's preferences in several pieces. And I made mistakes, and then people had heart attacks when their exam didn't open. And it just ended up, I think, being more trouble than it was worth. So what I will do is instead, I'm going to give you one big thing. So in the case of a quiz, you'll get one big quiz. In the case of the exam, you'll get one big exam. It's not going to be broken into pieces. And you get 3 attempts. Best one counts. So I thought about I'm going to average them. Nope, just straight best one counts. The The attempts have a time limit, just like the quizzes, just like they did before, right? You could work for half an hour, or you could work for, 10 minutes. Well, no, that's a bad example, actually. So I guess it's more like the vocab quizzes. So you know how I'll open it up for like 20 minutes, but you only have 15 minutes to work on the vocab quiz? It's kind of like that. So basically, the exam will be available. Let's take exam 3, for example. That's going to be open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You have 3 attempts anytime in those 3 days. Do them all on the 28th. Do them all in one sitting. I don't care. Do one on the 28th, one on the 29th, one attempt on the 30th. Great. Do one on the 28th, study for 2 days, and then do 1 and 2 on the 30th. Fine. I don't care. Whatever combination you want. Just know that whenever you start the exam, the timer starts, and you'll have, 2 hours maybe. I don't know the timing yet. You'll have some amount of time to work, and it doesn't matter if you stop it for an hour and go get lunch. Your 2 hours is ticking. That's all the time you get for that attempt. So it's open book, open notes, just like it was before. But that's it. Yes, there's going to be a pool of questions. That's one of the reasons I didn't want to do this, is because I have to make a big pool of questions, or else you could just, copy all the answers, get all the right answers from somebody, and then type in the right answers. So the only way I can do to prevent that is to make a big bank of questions. It's going to suck. But it also sucked typing in everyone's preferences in their exam times. So, it's just picking my poison. The good news is that this poison I could reuse later on, because I'm going to have, statistics isn't changing in the next few years, so I can keep using these exams if I want. So it'll be worth it in the end. It's just going to be kind of a pain to enter it all in. Anything else I need to say about that? I didn't put it on the slides, but of course I'm going to give you a practice exam as promised. So practice exam, I have on my to-do list to release it on Saturday if I can get it made in time. I have a lot of stuff that I have to work on, all these assignments and stuff. Most of them I have to build, and it's going to be a pain. It takes me hours per assignment, and I have to do like 11 of them or something. No signups. You just take it when you want. And you weren't supposed to email me the first time anyway. Again, the first exam, or the previous exam, exam 2, you were supposed to sign up on Friday. And literally at least a third of the class failed to do so. It was bad. So, yeah, that's apparently too complicated for everyone to handle. So, you just take it when you want. So, that puts the burden on me to make a difficult. What do you mean you didn't know? I told you. I don't know how you got that misconception. I was very clear. I put it in writing. It was in several places. And I tried to be understanding. I didn't punish anyone for failing to fill it out. But a lot of people, you can go back. Let's see. So, right here. You'll have to sign up by telling me when you want to take each one. Once I make the exam, I will create a quiz where I tell you how many sections there are and how long each one will take, and you will tell me when you want to start each section. Drop down list in 30-minute increments. This quiz will be available during Friday, 4/10, due at midnight. So, I don't know how else to be more clear. I do understand that if you read this and then you don't read the sub bullet points, you could have the opinion that you're supposed to email me. I don't know. I put it on the slide and I talked about it. I don't know what else to do to be clear. So, I don't know. My guess is that everyone's got a lot to worry about right now, and people aren't being organized. People, because it wasn't just you. Like, you're not the only one. Like, it was literally like 20 people out of my 60 students. 20 people failed to do it. So it wasn't just you. So I think everyone's in a panic right now. And some, right, they're overwhelmed. And people are not successful at keeping up with everything. That's my guess. Because I don't know what else to do to be more clear. And like I said, I get questions almost every day. Hey, are your announcements posted on D2L? I'm like, yes. Where do you think I pull them down every day? Like, I show you downloading it. I show myself downloading it every single day in class. From literally day one. And yet people don't know. So, I don't know. It's something about the human brain. I don't know. I don't know. So, short answer, no. So, please don't email me about when the exam is. Thursday through Saturday. That's when the exam is. Anytime. Thursday to Saturday. And remember, final exam is optional. Your best 3 exam scores count. Your best 3 exam scores count. And if you don't take the final, then you get a 0 on it, which is fine. But then by default, you will drop that exam. If you take the final exam and you do better than one of your previous 3 exams, then that score is replaced. Whatever your worst score is dropped. If you do horribly on the final exam, which doesn't tend to happen, but it has happened, if you do horrible on the final exam, then we can still drop it. It's better than a 0, and I'm happy to drop a 0, so it's fine. So that's optional. Quiz 3 is optional, assuming we get to 80% as a class. If we haven't made it by Monday, I'll tell you guys, hey, if you don't get it together, the quiz is not going to be optional. So, and we'll know because we'll be a few hours before the deadline. So at that point, we should have a pretty good idea. All right, let's move on. Let's try this one more time. Is this going to work? What are you saving? It's blank. Why are you like this? All right, wait, I've got another idea. Please? I'm clicking the button. I'm asking nicely. Chapter 8. Interpreting the results. 'Cause it's gonna get a hot. Oh, you're kidding me. Just go away. Go sit in your room and think about what you did. Mind tap. Wait, I'm skipping a step. There's something we need to do first. I know you've been looking forward to it. Vocab quiz. Is vocab quiz time. It's everybody's favorite. 15-minute vocab quiz. All right. I don't know why I always do this. This is my first time having it lag, and I use it every day. So that's surprising. I haven't had this problem. But, I mean, that's just kind of the reality of technology right now, right? Everything lags these days. It's pretty frustrating. Because it's just overwhelmed, And they just upgraded their system, which means it's putting a different strain on the system than they're used to. So you really can't blame Cengage for that. People are having issues with this Twitch stream. People have issues with Zoom. People have issues with everything right now. It's not their fault. Okay, get going. You got 15 minutes to take your vocab quiz. I'm going off mic like usual. If you have any, burning questions, let me know. I'll be able to hear the ding. I'm gonna mute the dings so the chat dings don't go through the stream. And I'll mute myself. I'm actually gonna go clean my 3D printer because I've got 15 minutes to sit here. So good luck. Go. by the way. I can hear you. If you have a question, send a message in the chat. I'll hear the ding. I'll come take a look. Okay. Well, that is the 22 people that we have watching right now, which, it's about what we've had the last few days. You can see on the screen, 22, 23, 21, 23. Yeah, you can see that. Well, this is a little misleading because, if you attempt it multiple times, you get multiple things. But I think we've got more than 22 people in the class. I think it's at least 29. But, well, that's quarantine. That's showbiz, baby. That's what it is. Freaking microphone cable is stuck. Oh, well. It is what it is. People don't think it be like it be, but it do. Ain't that right, T-Pain? Okay. So, that is the end of the vocab quiz. Or in the words of the 1998 hockey game, that's the end of the game. What's that game called? I don't remember. I have it written on a sticky note for when I print things out, but it's on my office monitor, not here. I can go back and look. I've got a roster, but I don't want to pull it up during class. I'm not supposed to do that. It's a HEPA violation. Okay. Chapter 9. Let's get into it, folks. Chapter 9 is an exciting chapter because of all it's of all the work we've done. Because by the way, this is our last Wednesday together. We have today, we have Monday, and then we don't have each other anymore. Or, maybe we do because you're going to work with me in the second half of the semester. Or you're going to come back and take my Management 379 class, my analytics class. See, yeah, like Mo. Never let me go, Jack. I like that. Sorry, I hesitated there because I realized that somebody asked me about my 377 class earlier, but I think I told him something wrong. Let me make a note of my phone because that's why I spaced out because I was like, oh crap, I told that person the wrong thing. Okay, where would I be without technology? Okay, remind me to fix the crap, my mistake I made. Okay, so, yeah, you might see me again, but it's going to be a while, right? It's going to be at least July until I see you folks again, and that's just going to make me sad, Maybe we'll have Jackbox game night. That'd be fun. I could do that. Or I don't know. No, it starts in July 1st. I think. Or is it June? No, I think the Saturday. Maybe it is June. Shouldn't be. Should still be open. They're still No, it's summer 3. It's the third half. The third half. My goodness. The second half of June. I think you can still get into it. It might be June 28th. It's the end of the month, if nothing else. It's mostly July and August. Anyway, so the other thing I wanted to tell you guys is I don't think I mentioned this on Monday, but we officially got our analytics minor put into the system, there's a process involved. You need a lot of signatures to change anything in the catalog. Start offering new programs is a big deal. So it's a bit of a slow process, but we are officially in the process now. We've officially submitted everything, so we can start recruiting. Well, it is after the quiz was due. So if he's trying to get online in the last 4 minutes, it's too late. The quiz ran for the previous 15 minutes. However, can't go online is a bigger issue. I don't know, does that mean he can't go online at all? He cannot access Google? I mean, if that's the case, I can't help him. That is beyond my powers. The good news is, if his internet is totally down, we can fix it later. But if it's totally down, I can't do anything about it now anyway, so it is what it is. Will I be able to lecture stream like I am right now? No idea. I'm hoping it's supposed to be face-to-face. I hope it is. Don't know. Currently, the plan is face-to-face. Could change. Now, the analytics minor, I want to tell you very, very, very briefly. So there is one more class that you must take in addition to the ones that we've discussed. 377 and 379 is your other required management class. It's the other required management class that everyone has to take if you want to graduate with a business degree, business analytics. Business analytics is the first piece of the required coursework, and I will be teaching, I believe, starting in not this fall, but the next one, meaning fall 2021. I will be offering a new course for the university, Management 351. And then in the spring, Dr. Cheatham Cochran, if you've had any experiences with her, will be teaching a new class in the spring. So we're going to alternate fall, spring. And we both are teaching a different class. So 351 in the fall, 352 for the spring. Business analytics is 379. So the reason I'm telling you all this is because one of our major concerns is that many students put off business analytics, the introduction to business analytics, until their last semester, because it has a reputation, deservedly, of being hard. So here's the problem with that, is if it is a class that you need to fear, then there's a risk that you might fail it. And if you are going to fail it, do you want to have it delay your graduation? Because it happens more often than I wish it would happen, which I wish it would happen zero, and it doesn't happen zero. So it makes me sad. Get the hard classes out of the way, and then you don't have to worry about them causing a problem. And it just so happens that you might find that you really enjoy analytics. And I have multiple students. I've had students every semester I teach the class come up and say, "This stuff is so cool. What do I do now?" And they're graduating. It's like, well, go to get a master's degree, I guess. Like, what else are you going to do? You're out of time. And truthfully, we haven't had the courses offered. So we're going to start doing that next year. Not next school year, but next calendar year. 2 school years. So not, fall 2021. So I would strongly encourage you to take 377, take 379, get them out of the way, and then hopefully you'll say, hey, wow, this stuff is really cool. You'll want to take more classes in the area, and then you'll have it done, and so you can start taking the minor courses. Now, the truth is you can take the minor courses before you take analytics or with them. It doesn't actually matter. So if you already know you love data analytics and you want to jump in on the minor, awesome. But I expect that a lot of students will take business analytics, take intro to analytics, and want more. So please take 379. You're going to have to do it eventually. Might as well get it out of the way, and you might find something you like. So I'm teaching 2 sections in the fall. One of them is going to be online, not very much like this class. I expect it to have a very different format. And the other one's going to be face-to-face. So as we were the first half of the semester. Okay. Awesome. So there's be careful. I think I have like section 1 or 2. Section 1, I want to say, for analytics, that's in person. And then section 5 is online. So pay attention to that. Make sure you get the one you want. Like I say, it's going to be very different from this format. So if you don't like this format, that's good news. Okay, so let's talk about hypothesis testing. Because really, this is the bread and butter of this entire class. This is the part that is most meaningful and most exciting for the majority of students. The most useful in your everyday lives. So the whole idea here, and let's get into the, kind of step by step. There's a reason that it's animated. Okay, so the whole idea of a hypothesis. Let's start there. You guys know what a hypothesis is, right? You've seen crime shows. You took science classes in high school. A hypothesis is something that's uncertain. It might be true. It might not. And so this chapter is literally about testing what is true and what is not. And I just realized that this freaking thing is not centered. No. Why is it like this? Phew. Saved it. It's centered now. Okay. We are trying to test statements that we don't know if they're true or not. So, please go next. Okay, so what we're going to do usually, so we start with one of two directions. We have two options. We have this thing, we have this thing. We have this or that. And these two things comprise the entirety of reality. If it's this, it cannot be that. And if it is not this, it must be that. Those are the only two choices. And, vice versa. If it's not this, it's definitely that. If it's not this, it's definitely that. And so sometimes it's easier to start with the null and then back into the alternative. Sometimes you'll start with the alternative and figure out what the null is. But the idea is that we're going to come up with these two ideas, this A, B, and then we will be comparing them. So we're going to just get through this today. We'll kind of skip through these errors a little bit, and we're going to spend most of our time on Monday talking about how to actually solve these problems. So setting them up is actually most of the hard part. Basically, what Chapter 9 is, okay, so here's a new context to apply Chapter 8. So the third and fourth bullet points are just Chapter 8 again. Chapter 8 revisited in the context of null and alternative hypothesis. So we're basically going to spend today talking about the new context that Chapter 9 affords, and then we'll do implementation on Monday. Let's move my head out of the way. Remember, by the way, that if you have a question, you want to put something in Discord, rather than putting it in the stream chat, you can do that. Not really sure why you'd care, but it's a thing. Okay, so hypothesis testing. We are trying to determine if some particular statement seems to be true or not. Now, we can never prove something because, of course, we're going to be working with samples, and samples are imperfect. They're incomplete information. So it is impossible for us to ever make a definitive statement about what is or what is not true. However, we can accept or we can reject. We can reject or we can fail to reject even is the actual appropriate terminology. So we're either going to reject a hypothesis or fail to reject a hypothesis. But again, the whole context of this is that there's going to be some statement, or really a pair of statements, about the value of some population parameter, which, as a reminder, that is the true characteristic value. It's what the actual number is in the real population, but of course we don't know. We don't know what it is. We're just guessing based off of statistics in the data. Okay, so we have two things. We have null and we have alternative hypotheses. These are the two things we have. So what are they? The null hypothesis is, I like to call it innocent until proven guilty. Is kind of the way that I think about these types of problems, and I think it helps students. I've gotten good feedback on that illustration in the past, because truthfully, this whole discipline is kind of hard. And you'll see what I'm talking about as we get into it. It's pretty nuanced. So, null hypothesis is your innocent until proven guilty statement. It's a tentative assumption. It's not an assumption that's inviolable. We're not saying it's definitely true, but until we have reason to suspect otherwise, it's what we are assuming is the case. If that's not it, if it's not this, then it's the other thing. And so that's why we have this as the null hypothesis. So the other thing is the alternative. It's this or the alternative. And so we literally just call it the alternative hypothesis. So null or not is often represented by a 0 to be short, for short. So this is H naught, and then the alternative hypothesis is H A. So whatever we say the tentative assumption is H naught, the null hypothesis, and then the opposite of the null hypothesis is the alternative hypothesis, H A. And by opposite, of course, I mean it's like if this, then not that, and if not that, then this. They together are all encompassing, but they have no overlap, they have no gap. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So the procedure, the whole point of this, what we're going to do is to use data from a sample data, to test the two competing statements described by H naught and H A. That's it. That's the whole goal. And I'll get a little more specific about what that means, but for now, we're just going to focus on the actual hypotheses. Okay, so as I promised, it is not obvious what these hypotheses should be in a lot of contexts. It's really quite remarkable, actually, how difficult it can be. So, care must be taken to structure these hypotheses appropriately because this is all context. It's contextually based and driven by the questions you're trying to answer. Now, that can be really hard to understand. What are we going for? Especially in a classroom context, and actually it's kind of similar in like a consulting context. You're brought into a new situation, you don't know anything about it necessarily, and you're trying to guess the intentions of your boss or your hirer, and in this case, your teacher posing the questions. And that's really challenging. You have to get to the heart of the matter. And so I'll try to draw your attention to some kind of keywords that can trigger, certain ideas of, oh, this could be that, or this should be the other thing. But in all of this, the context is very important in determining how the hypotheses should be stated. So, as I suggested earlier, in some cases, it is easier to identify your alternative hypotheses and then figure out, and by whatever is not alternative is the null. Sometimes start with the null, and that will give you your alternative. But in all of this, doing a good job will take practice. So, that's what we're going to focus on today. And truthfully, in the homework, it's like 50% hypothesis definitions. That's like a good portion of the homework. Okay, so let's talk about the different ways we can go about defining a hypothesis. So one easy one is if we have a research hypothesis, meaning there's something new that's happening, and we're trying to establish that the new is different. The new might be better, the new might be worse, but we're trying to show that it's different to what we had before. So we are trying basically to gather evidence in support of this hypothesis. In these circumstances, we'll usually start with the alternative hypothesis because it's obvious in how it's designed. So, begin with the alternative hypothesis, which is the conclusion that the researcher hopes to support. And then we can draw this conclusion. We can say it's true. This research statement is true if there is enough data in the sample, enough evidence in the sample to show that the null hypothesis is very unlikely. Remember, the null hypothesis is innocent until proven guilty. So, we have to show it's not innocent. Now, we can never prove. That's the problem with this analogy. You can never prove it. But you can show that the chances are very, very high. Example. Let's say that I don't think Zoom is going to be a very good format for our online classes. And so I propose that Twitch and Discord together will be a better learning experience for the students, a better teaching method than using Zoom or digital classroom, something like that. Okay, so that's my statement. The alternative hypothesis. My new teaching method is better than the existing one. Okay, so if the alternative hypothesis represents the alternative and the null hypothesis together represent the entirety of the realm of possibility. So then, if not this, then that. So, if the new teaching method is better is option A, then what's option B? The new teaching method is not better. Now, it's tempting to say the new teaching method is worse than the old one. However, there's always the possibility of a tie. Now, ties are very difficult to prove. We can't prove anything. But all we can say is it better or not? So, alternative hypothesis, new method better. Null hypothesis, new method not better. Now, again, what are we going to try to do? We demonstrate the alternative by showing that the null hypothesis is unlikely to be true. In other words, it is not, the world's condition is not what the null hypothesis says it is. And what does it say? That it's not better. So we can't prove that the new method is better. However, we can provide evidence that it's not better. Huh? Double negative for the win? Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. We'll use evidence to show that it's not better, which means that it is better. We don't know by how much. We just know that it's very unlikely to not be better. So it's not better, therefore it's better. How much better? Hard to say. That's what interval estimates are for. But in terms of just, is it better or not? That's what this is for. Okay, so here's another example. A new Salesforce bonus plan, meaning, a lot of salespeople, if you don't know, a lot of salespeople work on a commission system. They may get paid like a base salary, like $20,000 a year, $30,000 a year. It's often not very much. And then they get a commission based on what they sell. So let's say that a new Salesforce bonus plan is developed in an attempt to increase sales. Okay, so, well, let's look at a key word here. I didn't really do this on the last slide, but let's look at this one. Attempt. We are attempting something. We are trying to influence the world. So what are we doing? Well, we have a plan that is increasing sales. Okay, attempt to increase sales. That's our key phrase. So our alternative hypothesis, our research hypothesis is that the new plan is better, that sales are increased. So new sales are better than old sales. The new bonus plan increases sales. Now, if it's not the alternative hypothesis, then the null hypothesis is that it does not increase sales. So again, not to say that it makes it worse, which it might be the same, it might go down, but it won't go up. That's the alternative. So the alternative to the alternative. The alternative itself is increase. The alternative to the alternative, which is the null hypothesis, is either flat or decrease. We don't know which one. We're just going to try to show that the null hypothesis is not true. Okay, and last one. Super easy example to use. A new drug is developed with the goal of lowering blood pressure more than the existing drug. For some reason, I find that these examples are quick to my mind. I'm not sure what it is about medicinal drugs. I'm like, medicinal treatments that seem like they make sense to me. But anyway, so a new drug is developed with the goal of lowering blood pressure more than the existing drug. So, again, keyword. Goal of. Okay, now this is a lot to highlight, but okay, the goal is lowering blood pressure more than the existing drug. Okay, well, do we succeed in that? Alternative hypothesis, yes. The new drug lowers blood pressure more than the existing drug. Null hypothesis, no, we did not. We did not lower it more than the existing drug. So, these statements tend to be fairly easy once you get the hang of it, right? So you have a hypothesis. It's better than the old one. And then the alternative to the alternative, which is the null hypothesis, is no, it's not. No, it ain't, as we'd say in the South. Is it better? Yes or no? Not better. And really, that's all there is to it on this statement. However, these are unfortunately the easier scenario. The other half is the more difficult one, and you'll see why in just a moment. The null hypothesis, this is a second type of problem. The null hypothesis as an assumption to be challenged. Remember, I said innocent until proven guilty, right? So we might begin with a belief or assumption about some statement, about a value, a belief or assumption, some statement about a value of a parameter is true. And then we'll try to challenge that assumption and see if there is evidence to conclude that the assumption is incorrect. So in these cases, there's a statement that exists, there's a status quo, this is the thing, this is how the thing works, and we're trying to see if that's not true. In these cases, we start with the null hypothesis because it's easy. It's obvious what it is. It's usually printed on packaging somewhere, or it's on a billboard, or something like that. The null hypothesis is very obvious. And then we use that to determine the alternative. Okay, so, like I said, printed on packaging, put on a billboard, put on marketing information, it's in a commercial, these kinds of things. These are often like published numbers. Okay, for example, a 2-liter. The label on a soft drink bottle states that it contains 67.6 fluid ounces. Okay? So here's where it gets tricky. Is my hypothesis saying that it contains exactly 67.6? Well, that's what it says on the bottle, but sometimes they'll say things like not less than 67.6. Because if I ask for 2 liters and I get more than 2 liters, that's a win. I got more for my money, right? So I'm never going to be upset about that. Unless you're, like, oh, I'm buying 1 pint of milk and I need to put a pint of milk in a recipe, and so I open the thing and I pour it in and I'm anticipating a certain amount of milk and I get a quart instead of a pint. That would obviously be bad. I got twice as much as I'm supposed to have. And a horrible measuring system. I've heard a lot of people be like, you know what we need to do with the coronavirus? Go out and fix all the roads. And I agree with you. I think we should also switch to metric. Let's go crazy, right? It's crazy times. Let's do it. I know we're going to really freak people out when they realize they got to count to 10 over and over again, but that's way easier than... Here's my suggestion. If you can tell me how many inches are in a mile without Googling it and without using, figuring it out on your paper, if you can do it in your head inside of 10 seconds, you can vote to keep the imperial system. If you can't do that, you must default to the metric system, and then we'll vote democratically. I would bet good money metric wins in a landslide. Because, first of all, I feel like a lot of people don't even know how many feet are in a mile, and then you got to do 12 times 5,280. I tried to do it in my head yesterday just to see if I could even do it, and I messed it up the first time. I got it right the second time, though. See, there you go, Ben. That's what we could do. Man, Australia. It's great, man. I need to ask you about, there's a guy who's famous, was an action sports star, Ryan Williams. And I don't know if he's like a legend in Australia. I feel like he should be. Not that he's going to ever rival the crocodile hunter, but, I feel like Ryan Williams, our Willie, should be up there for completely different reasons. But that's my opinion. Anyway, so I'm happy about my 67.6 ounces if it's more. Unless you're the manufacturer. Because the manufacturer doesn't want to get sued. They don't want to underfill their bottles. But, what happens if you overfill a bottle? Well, the bottle's only so big, and you've seen a 2 liter. There's not. The BMX guy, yeah. I was watching his videos today. Anyway, so if I overfill a bottle, there's not a lot of space at the top of a soft drink bottle. So pretty quickly, it's going to be full. And I wonder, I don't know a whole lot about soft drink bottling processes, but I imagine that if there's going to be a point when you start having issues with pressure and packaging could be getting damaged, and so not only are you wasting product, but there can be some real practical issues to overfilling a bottle. So should this be an exactly equality statement, or should it be greater than or equal to? Man, it's hard to say. And I think essentially it comes down to the perspective. Are you looking from a customer standpoint, or are you looking from the manufacturing standpoint? In this case, I'm going to make the executive decision, that we are looking from the consumer standpoint, and we just want to make sure we're not, getting ripped off, that we are in fact getting the full 2 liters, 67.6 ounces. And if that's not the case, the alternative hypothesis is that they're underfilling their bottles. Yeah, am I so crazy to think that you could just teach both? And then eventually Americans will be like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Forget imperial. I feel like that would happen. Okay. So I really beat this to death, but I want to make sure we talk about one thing. Remember, the null hypothesis is the one that we're challenging. So the greater than or equal to part is the null hypothesis, and then whatever isn't the null hypothesis is the alternative, 67.6. Now, something else to keep in mind. Because it's either this or that and there's no overlap, there's only one equal to, right? So this underline right here, there can only be one. There can only be one. And it's always in the null hypothesis. So the reason is, remember, these are continuous distributions, right? The probabilities or whatever are continuous, and we can never prove equality. So we can never we can never prove that something is greater than or equal to. We can only prove that it's not greater than or equal to. Or we can provide evidence for. We can't prove anything. We provide evidence for. Which means we know for sure that the equality part is in the null hypothesis, and we know that if one thing is less than, which this is less than from my perspective, I'm not sure what this is for you. I think this is greater than from your perspective. I'll draw it on the board. Well, I'll just show you. Okay, so if we have one is less than, the other must be greater than. Right? Or if it's the other way around, if this is less than, that must be greater than. The two symbols have to face opposite directions from each other. And the equality always goes in the null hypothesis. Now, sometimes you don't actually want anything except for the published number. Like I was saying, overfilling or underfilling both aren't good. Or, for example, like let's say that I've bought a screw. I don't want it to be too big. I don't want it to be too small. I want it to go into the thing, tighten up, and hold my pieces together, right? So too big, too small, both are a problem. So in that case, there's actually another option called two-tailed tests, where you have it's either equal or it's not equal to. So either too big or too small, both are not good. So these this one-tailed, two-tailed thing will make more sense as we start getting into actually solving problems on Monday. For now, I'm just going to, kind of, that's all we're going to talk about for the second. There's a few more slides, and we're not done for the day, but I'll come back to explain what all this one-tailed, two-tailed stuff means on Monday. It'll make more sense with some pictures. Okay, so example problem. Metro EMS, Emergency Medical Services. A major West Coast city provides one of the most, let's do a dramatic reading. A major West Coast city provides one of the most comprehensive emergency medical services in the world, operating in a multiple hospital system with approximately 20 mobile medical units. The service goal is to respond to medical emergencies with a mean time of 12 minutes or less. The Director of Medical Services wants to formulate a hypothesis test that could use a sample of emergency response times to determine whether or not the service goal of 12 minutes or less is being achieved. Okay, so as we're going along, now it's a little hard online, but it's normally if I were doing pen and paper exam, pencil and paper, what I do is circle keywords. So here's some things I see. Mean time. When you see numbers, you should be generally paying attention. In this case, 20 medical units. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to that doesn't really matter. What matters is that the goal is to respond with a mean time of 12 minutes or less. Okay, so I told you before that sometimes you can't tell if it's a one-tailed test or a two-tailed test. Meaning, do I want equal or greater than or equal? It's really hard to tell the difference. In this case, it's given to you exactly, right? That's this or less part. So it should be clear in this instance that our goal is to respond in 12 minutes. That we've determined that, obviously the longer you wait, the longer it takes for the responder to get to the emergency, the more likely it is for the problem to have gotten beyond the control of the responders. The person's dead, the person's, bled out, their car explodes, whatever. Like, bad stuff is happening. When an ambulance is called, it's bad. And the longer it takes to get there, the badder it is, the worse it is. So they've determined that 12 minutes is their reasonable balance between what they can do. They want to be as fast as they can. But there's a limit to what they can do. So their goal is 12 minutes. So let's see if they're meeting that goal or not. So the statement to be disproven, this kind of thing's like an audit. We want to make sure we're meeting our goal, these kinds of things. So innocent until proven guilty, we're making our goal. Our average response time is 12 minutes or less. And if that's the case, meeting the goal, no follow-up action is necessary. On the other hand, the the alternative to that, the alternative hypothesis, we're not meeting the goal, and we need to make some kind of appropriate follow-up action, doing some different kind of allocation for the ambulances, hiring more ambulances. You know, we got to do something. We've got to change something. So these are the choices: mu less than or equal to 12 or not. So I want to stop here, but we have 5 minutes, and I'm going to use this to draw a picture. Okay, by the way, if you're still using Paint, you're wrong. Paint.net is way better. There were some other ones that are pretty good too, but this is my preference. Okay. I think, how do I do this? Just add a 0. Whoops, not too many zeros. Okay. Something went wrong. 0. 0. Do it this way. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Okay. I'm just going to zoom in. Okay. I just need a blank canvas. That's what matters. Okay. So we're going to take samples. And remember, anytime that you take samples, the sampling distribution follows a normal distribution. Oh, my Lord. I can do better than that. Okay. That'll work. Now, in theory, if our null hypothesis is true, then our mean is going to be at potentially 12, right? So if it is in fact 12, then we'll have half of the samples we take are more than that. We'll get, 13 minutes or something. This is minutes. Okay. So we'll get maybe 13, 14, 15, or the other half will be below 11 minutes, 10 minutes, 9 minutes, and so on. And so, oops, that's not the right one. The question is it 12 or less, or is it not? So how likely is it that we're in this half? Well, if it's actually centered, then there's a 50% chance that we get a sample that shows that we're lower. There's a 50% chance that shows that we're higher. Okay, but this is going the wrong direction. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to be getting a sample, and this is not going to be exactly 12. It's going to be, oh, that's not what I want. We'll do it this way. It's not going to be exactly 12, but it'll be something, right? It'll be X bar. And let's say that we get a sample that's bigger than 12, maybe 13. 13, we'll say. This is super ugly. I'll use the paintbrush. There's another one that's the better one. Yeah. X bar equals 13. Okay. So that suggests that 12 is somewhere over here. Now, without knowing the standard deviation, I don't know how far. But there's going to be some % chance that we get a sample of 13 and the true mean was actually 12. So the question is, how far apart are 12 and 13, 12 and X bar, in given the amount of variation that's in the sample? So there's going to be some % chance that the sample, the true population value is actually 12 or more. And that population is given by the area under the curve over here. So if this area is a small number, then it's very unlikely that the true population average is 12 or less. However, if we get a big number, then it's quite likely that it is 12 or less. And so our statement's looking pretty good. So this is just, at this point, it's actually like a chapter 6 question. I have a normal distribution, mean of 13, then I have some standard deviation, and then I'm going to be looking compared to 12. And then X is 12. So if I know the population standard deviation, I don't have to use S. I can use sigma, and I get to use Z tables. Or if I don't know the population standard deviation, I use the sample standard deviation and my T tables. So just like chapter 8. So that's where we'll leave off today. The Chapter 9 homework is available to you. You don't have to start working on it right away. It is there. I got it published today, I think. I need to make sure I did. I'm pretty sure I did. Should be there. And you can get started on it, but it's not due until Tuesday night. So we'll finish up the other half of this on Monday. Okay, so I will cut the YouTube video there. If you're watching on YouTube, there's one more video left. We're almost to the end. Thanks for your attention. Catch you next time. Catch you later. Or Lex time.